I really want to talk about something that, quite frankly, I obsess over. I believe that every business person, every entrepreneur, every salesman really should kind of like pay attention to that concept, and it's the concept of short-term gain versus long-term gain, right? We've all heard it before. We heard about short-term investment, long-term investment. We heard about short-term, immediate gratification versus long-term, play. And I think that, look, I don't have percentages, right? This is like me pulling numbers out of my rear end, but I think 99%, which really leads to the top 1% being out of that equation, 99% of people in the business of business development, sales, real estate, right? When we make the decision to get into selling for ourselves, right, we forget that for the most part, our life would revolve around rejection and pushback and negativity and we're not going to get the result probably as fast as we'd like them, to get them, especially when you talk about real estate, right? And I just think that it's really important that we start to talk about what needs to be done throughout the journey of the long-term play in order to get the long-term, gain, right? I mean, I understand some people may not be able to wait for the long-term gain, but if you can't wait for the long-term gain, you probably cut the odds of your success by
absolutely
90%, right?
Absolutely. I think it's unfortunately, I think it's a lack of understanding of the industry for a lot of newer agents who come into the industry. They see a friend who collects a check, they make the $10,000, $15,000 check, but what they don't realize is it's at minimum 6 months worth of time and effort and energy put into the sale before you can even talk about any kind of commissions being made, right? And I think that with a lot of agents who come into the business, they don't realize you're working a long-term play. You're in a long-term business. You're now your own business owner, right? And most businesses don't take off within the first 2-3 years, let alone 6 months, which a lot of people expect. And you're also working a very long-term individual sales process, right? Your first 3 months are just trying to get a hold of a homeowner. Your next 6 months are trying to actually convince the homeowner to move forward with you. And then you've got another 3 months of, after you sign the listing agreement, you've got another 3 months of, putting the property on the market and escrow and all those stuff. So I think most agents don't realize how much effort and time really needs to be put into their business before they start seeing transactions.
Right, and it's interesting because you used two terms. You said wait for, and I forgot the other one, but you said the first 3 months of waiting for the homeowner to get contacted, and then 3 months to have them make a decision, or I don't know. We could roll out the tape and listen to it. But here's the important part. It's funny. I mean, I think it's not funny. I think it's ironic, right? That probably most of the industry expects that phone call, that it's not family and friends, right? It's not a warm referral that you took from, let's say, the last 10 years of
that's a really good point.
Expect like this immediate, positive, truthful, or transparent, and reply to call for action, right?
So to build on that, I mean, look, most real estate agents enter the industry with their friends and referrals, right? And the friends and referrals are a much shorter term process or sales flow process than someone that you just started talking to, meeting them, giving a business card. One, you have to build that trust, and building the trust doesn't happen in your first conversation. I can't tell you a number of times we've spoken to agents that the homeowner's not even ready to tell the agent that they're comfortable or that they're interested in selling for the first maybe 3 to 5 contacts.
Why do you think that a lot of call it leads, a lot of home shoppers, right? People that are looking to sell, maybe people are looking to buy, maybe people that are looking to invest. Why do you think they're not as transparent as one would expect them to be, right? From the first call.
You're talking to someone you've never met in your life. I mean, it's a neighbor, right? I'm not sure if this is a great analogy, but when you grow up, your mom says stranger danger.
Right.
I mean, you've grown up your whole life with that mindset, and now you have someone who's talking to you about making the biggest transaction of your life with the most emotional baggage that you have. This is your home.
Right.
You grew up here. I mean, if you ask me, what's the most memorable, moments of your life, it's going to be at my house. Right. It's going to be a birthday party that I had in my backyard when I invited 40 of my friends, and we had a carnival.
I think it's a test. I really think it's a test. I think that, let's face it, right? I mean, it's not a proprietary aspect of being, let's say, a licensed real estate agent, right? I mean, in truth, I mean, you're probably competing against 200 just in your specific zip code, if not in a specific street.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think home shoppers are jaded just as much as anybody else. And I think that at the end of the day, your job is to build trust, build comfort level, take the time to actually earn the relationship.
Yes.
Because in truth, I think it's a test. Because, you know, what makes you different than the other, right? And even if I, as a home shopper, I verbalize it by saying, look, I'm not looking to do it. It doesn't mean I'm not looking to do something. It could be I'm not looking to do something with you. I'm not looking to do something with you right now, right? I'm talking to some other people, right? And so to me, it's a test. And I'm sad to say it, but I think that a lot of people fail because we just give up on the long-term gain. We give up on the long-term challenge. And obviously, we'll dive into the details in a couple of minutes, but I think that we'll give some solutions and some ideas and some concept for the average producer, right, to be able to successfully engage long-term. But it's a test that we have to pass.
So I love that you see it that way, because I don't think most people would see it as a test, right? A test is connotation of test is negative, right? It's pass or fail. Whereas I think when I look at it, yeah, I could see it as a test, but I see it more as a relationship building, right? The test for me is how much work do I need to put in before this person sits down and says, you know what? Okay, I'm ready. Right? I'm ready to sit down and have a conversation because you've spent X amount of time following up with me. And for me, I see it more as a relationship building than I think I see it as a test. But I think if more people were to see it that way, that this is a test, but it's not pass or fail. Because even if you fail, there's always something to gain from it and learn from it. But I think that would kind of help the mindset of those who are getting into it, thinking, okay, I've got 6 months and I have to make X amount of dollars, otherwise, I'm not going to be able to survive.
Right. And we all are driven by our fears and concerns and rightfully so, right? I mean, how do we make rent, right? How am I going to pay rent in 2 weeks? I mean, if I'm going to get an escrow now, I'm probably not going to be able to pay rent.
Right.
And so we're driven by it. We're also driven by fear of failure and risks. I mean, I think I heard it a couple of days ago, someone talked about danger, the stranger danger, right? Which is kind of interesting because shoppers, ourselves, business developers, all of us, right? We're in the same boat of the caveman era, right? Of protecting ourselves and being very cagey to make sure we're not making a mistake that can hurt us, right? So that makes sense. And I think that in modern society, the faster we get used to the idea of, in a business environment, the word no really represents a yeah, but. Yeah, but work a little bit more and give me some options.
Right.
Yeah, but explain to me why you're probably the best person to work with.
Right.
Yeah, but tell me why now would be better than 3 weeks from now.
Yes.
So that's in a business environment. I think that until we get used to that idea, and until we get used to the idea that we have to have a business plan around the long-term play, I think that we will still have the inevitable churn of having the bottom 90% not being able to push and get to the top 10%.
So you've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. Starting out with this initial, let's say, this initial idea of long-term. What do you think an agent's, because you've done both sides. You've been the entrepreneur, you have your own business now, right? You've also been in the real estate space.
Absolutely.
So for a new agent who's first coming in, what kind of mindset should they have for expectations of, look, I know my first year is going to be absolutely horrible.
Right. Well, first off, in a spirit of full disclosure, I've been in the business of managing funds in the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And we ran a lot of single-family properties of buy and hold. Right. We've done it in 3 different states. The truth of the matter is that in order to succeed, first off, you have to have technology on your side. There's in today's day and age, I mean, if you don't have a client's relations management software, if you don't have a CRM, right? And if you don't track and maintain every single client data of yours, or a renter of yours, or a buyer of yours, or seller, or investors, you are going to lose. You're going to lose to the office that manages their clients better. And that's the first step. And actually, I'm going to punt it back to you because you've customized a lot of software. You've customized a lot of CRM platforms, especially for distribution and sales. I mean, share a couple of your customization that you put in place recently. About
customization, obviously the customization that I've done was kind of build it around what we needed internally. And a lot of that has been starting out with the types of fields. It's to break it down to 3 points. One is the data that you want to hold, right? What's the information that you want to contain for every individual lead? right? Whether it's the name, obviously straightforward, name, number, email, phone number, right? That's very straightforward. But what else? Are you going to collect birth dates? Are you going to have anniversary dates? Are you going to have notes based on this is a Raiders fan and I'm going, stuff like that. That's one. Two is it's going to be automation. Right, and I think going back to what you were talking about in this day and age, technology automation is huge, right? Having the ability to automate based on the deal stage or the lead stage that they're in, which is the third component, is really important, right? Knowing that I'm in on a scale step 1 to 10, they're in step 3 is going to dictate which type of email I'm going to send out or which kind of contact I'm going to make, versus knowing they're right at the edge of the 7, 8, or 9. Right.
So let me dial it down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to simplify it, right? So you have your CRM. You haven't started taking. I mean, you didn't start your business development yet, right? I mean, you don't have any online leads yet. Right. You don't have any. We didn't go to any networking events. Really, at this point, it's your mom, dad, family, friends, whatever, right? Your first sphere of influence of 20 people, right? What data do you enter into the CRM?
Name, number, email, and notes.
Thank you. So you take basic information. That's step 1.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So what do you do with it? What would be your recommendation? I mean, I guess it's a segue to, okay, I mean, I got the first rejection, right? I mean, I took my first client from the Chamber of Commerce networking event last night. That person now is in the CRM. Right. What's your natural cadence to that kind of person?
Are we talking nurturing cadence, or are we talking the CRM cadence?
CRM cadence.
So the CRM cadence would be, so I like to break it up into 2 sections. Section 1 is someone that you have spoken to but have not yet established an interest or is not ready to move forward yet, right? It's called that nurturing process, right? I have to spend X amount of times to get you to say, yes, I'm ready to sit down and have a conversation, right? That face-to-face is where I separate and segregate stage 1 or step 1, section 1 from section 2.
Right.
Section 2 would be I had the conversation, I sat down with them, they told me they want to buy or sell, and now I'm moving in the listing or in talking about listing the property or starting to canvas properties, right? Then section 3 would be I've got escrow opened, I've got a listing agreement signed for a seller, or I have provided offers and we're looking to open escrow. Separating into those 3 segments allows you to start to break down and decide how you want to nurture, how you want to continue your follow-up, and how many points of contact you have once you've gone into escrow.
Gotcha. I know that obviously we've shopped around and we looked at different platforms.
Yes.
I mean, whether it's Salesforce of the world to different customized software to Zoho and others. I mean, I think that there are a lot of free CRMs there that can very easily be utilized, and it can very easily be executed by even if your budget is very slim.
Yep.
But I'm curious to know. I mean, okay, so we have the data, right? I mean, we've done very well with different text cadences, right? In my opinion, in the next 2 years, SMS is where it's at.
I would agree 100%.
That's where you get the most conversion. That's where you get the least barrier to enter. This is where people are still paying attention, and it's. I like the line I've heard before. It's the easiest way to people consume the content much better that way, right? So it's good for you,
well,
for your business, right?
As long as it's the right content,
right? Of course. But elaborate a little bit about the cadence. Methodologies like different tools that you've utilized in the CRM in order to actually nurture the leads.
So what you're pretty much feeding me is workflows.
Right.
Workflows is kind of workflows are basically you're taking specific conditions, and based on those conditions, you're going to have some kind of action.
Right.
So if, let's say, condition is, this is the 3rd day that I'm spoken to a homeowner, they're in my 3rd day of nurturing, and I have yet to contact them, I want this specific text to go out. Versus, I've established that interest, they're now in my section 2 where they're, I've contacted and had a conversation, and now I'm going to show them property. So I want to schedule a time and date, or schedule a time and a block of a date with a block of time where I can start showing them properties that I think would be a good fit, right? So the workflow allows you to kind of automate and make it a lot easier to identify specific prospects within specific areas of your sales flow to know how you're going to reach out and what the next step of communication is.
Got it. I think that also, talking about some technical games here, right? I mean, I think that a lot of people don't even know the term or haven't heard of Calendly, for example. I mean, it's a great,
phenomenal tool.
Right. I mean, and it's free, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can get a free account, and basically you can slap on a specific link to your signature, right? And whatever your email cadence is or your SMS cadence is, you can have a Calendly on it, and people can just schedule appointments, and all of a sudden now your day is blocked with phone calls, right? I think that's like, for example, one tool that we should definitely, I would recommend anyone to use, right?
Absolutely.
But as far as, so what other tools you think are important to have in a toolbox when you're talking about, let's say, real estate sales?
Templates. So what do you, as far as toolbox, what do you mean by toolbox?
Okay, I'll give you the answer.
Okay.
I think that the same way as with Calendly, for example, it's extremely important that you have, an email marketing tool, right? I mean, like, for example, if you go to MailChimp, right? MailChimp.com, start to create your email marketing, right? I mean, it's important that you have your email marketing, you have your CRM, you have your SMS
I'll give you
services.
Another one. Google Voice. Google Voice. Everybody needs to have a Google Voice. Google Voice is phenomenal. You could have it on your phone. It's a separate number from your house, from your personal number. You get all the emails, or you get the text messages and the voicemails as an email directly to your email address. You have the ability to text back. I mean, that's huge. That and when going back to the emails, having a templates, having, let's say, 5 or 6 or 7 different email templates that you can utilize just as a plug and play is great. What is ClearSlide? Is something that we've used in the past, which allows for great email templates. Unfortunately, that's not part of the tech play. Actually, I think Google itself now allows you to have email templates in your Gmail. It's endless. The amount of freetextnow.com or something like that was something that just a simple Google search on free CRM template, free CRM. Understanding the workflows and automations is a very important tool. I think that people have never even looked into, especially in industry.
Okay, so let's talk about the psychology a little bit of obviously the rejection, right? I mean, it's a little bit more of a psychology now conversation than obviously the tools, right? I mean, like we said that this is a long-term play, right? I mean, it's pretty realistic to believe that someone is looking to sell would probably be a 6 months engagement, because between getting them interested in listing, finding the right price point, right, listing, and then getting into escrow, so it's probably kind of like a long-term thing, right? Have you heard of any tools, or are you familiar with any tools that you would recommend, right, agents to utilize in order to create kind of like this flow of cadence for listings, for example? I mean, if I'm interested in going and listing now, right? I mean, I'm interested in representing a seller, right? I mean, and the seller is on the fence, or on the fence on with the listings. I mean, do you have any like market value analysis tools that we incorporate into like AVMs? I mean, we know we have like the set value concept, for example, right? So then we talked about the long term versus the short term, right? Again, not to sound too cheesy, but long term always wins, right? Long term investors always win. And we talked about how to manage your top to the bottom of the funnel, the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, right? I mean, let's face it, if you're in the business of real estate, you get leads from referrals, friends, families, probably whatever got you into real estate, right? Probably that was kind of like the low-hanging fruit that you thought are going to make you rich, right? So you start there, you get your license, and then you get into the point where, okay, I have to build a business. I go, I think benches don't work anymore, because quite frankly, when people sit on a bench, they look at their phone, they don't look at the bench, so that's dog shit. But, you can go to online leads, and you can start building your business from a lot of online leads, whether we like it or not. The online publishers own that market, and 80% of buyers come from there. So in truth, if you really want to grow your book of business, you have to conform to somewhat, society and somewhat reality of modern civilization, and that's how people shop for real estate. And then you obviously have all of the events, your marketing, TVs, radios, old-fashioned, that we have 2 pounds of opinions about them, but let's put them aside for a second. So you get all of your sources, you feed them into your top of the funnel, right? And the top of the funnel is the hardest because it's the coldest, because it's the most filled with rejection and testing, like we said in the beginning, right? Testing. And hopefully you pass all of them, but hopefully you're able to manage all of them to bring them to the bottom of the funnel, close to the deal. The bottom of the funnel is whatever your perception is to be is the bottom of the funnel. Everybody has their own interpretation of the bottom of the funnel. Some people believe that if the check is in the bank, it's the bottom of the funnel. Some people believe that if I meet with you face to face, and it's my second or first even meeting and we're ready to talk business, that's the bottom of the funnel. Getting from the top of the funnel funnel to the bottom of the funnel consists of tremendous amount of cadence, follow-up, data management, and persistency, right? Yes. What would you recommend the touch points to be? How and how many you would recommend to be?
Again, breaking into sections, the first 7 days needs to have 9 touch points. If you don't have 9 touch points in your first 7 days, you're going to lose out to somebody else.
Break it down for me. So non-touch points, how many via SMS, how many via voice, how many via emails?
Great question. There's no perfect scenario, but what I have seen and what we have seen works best is day 1, you have to have 3 touch points. Call, email, and text. Day 2, if I were you, what I recommend is call and text. Day 3 would be a call and email. Maybe day 4, you give them a little bit of a break. Day 5, call, email, text. Day 6, give them another break. Day 7, call, email, text. So you want to have within the first 7 days, 9 different touch points with 1 or 2 days of off days where you're not pursuing that agent. You're not pursuing that homeowner.
Which dates do you recommend to be the off dates?
Great question. I would recommend the off days to be day 4, day 5, or day 6. Because day 1, 2, and 3 are your hottest days. They just reached out to you or you just obtained the information. Day 1, they're probably most likely not going to be ready to answer a call, right? Day 2, they're more likely because they've seen the number again, but they're probably resist because they go, maybe it's a spammer. And then day 3, when you call back to back to back and they've gotten your email and they've seen your text message, if they see it on day 3, they're going to answer. If you get into day 4, now it's spam. Now you're just another person who's just going to completely bombard them, and they're just.
So you want to give it a cool-off period, right? You want to take
and you also want to make yourself seem like you've got 100 other people that you're touching, right? If you're constantly touching that same homeowner every single day, well, what else do you have to do?
Right.
I mean, my opinion, and I've spoken to tons of homeowners in our research, and 3 days is a good number.
And an offshoot point, by the way, and I think I've heard of a really good agent. Couple of days ago, it says answered the phone, right? I mean, because we're talking about SMS and email cadence, but then at the end of the day, there's some voice.
Absolutely.
There's some voice cadence, right? And let's say you leave a voice message, but you get a call back. I've got this advice, which it's pretty common sense, but answered the phone. I mean, even if you're on the other line, and even if you're currently, getting an appraisal done for one of your properties, you say, excuse me, let me just take this phone real quickly, just to service your client and
schedule a follow-up call.
Right.
So ask them what time would work best for you to get on the phones for 15 minutes. You have to answer the phones, because if you're not answering the phones, they're going to call you, and now you're playing this phone tag, which never works out. How many times have you called a friend and you just this bounce back and forth, right? That's someone that you know and you want to answer the phone for, right? So if they're reaching out to you, answer the phone.
Got it.
Pick up the phone, even if it's for 30 seconds. Hi, I'm glad we were able to connect. Look, I'm currently showing a property. I'm currently in appraisals. If I gave you a call in, say, an hour, or if I called you at 2 o'clock, would that work for you? No, it doesn't. Okay, what time would work for you, right? By the way, I always recommend giving 2 times. Would it work if 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock is better for you?
Right.
This way you're not getting that no, and I think that's part of the process of education that we're going to start really fulfilling. What time works best, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock? They're going to have to say one or the other, right? But yeah, I would absolutely agree.
So it's kind of like later today or another day. I mean, it's just you give 2 options, right? No, it just, and it's beautiful disclosure. It's another line I took from another good agent. Okay, so what is the timeline in your opinion for cadence? So if I got this top of the funnel, right? Opportunity day 1. Would it be to day 30, day 60, day 90? I mean, I know it's kind of like arbitrary, but how much follow-up? How much follow-up you can do?
First 30 days, you want to follow up as much as possible. And again, I'm not saying that the 9 touch points in the 7 days like it was then. Maybe, it becomes 3 touch points a week in your next month. Right. And then after a month, you want to once a week, right? I would follow up for 3 months. I mean, the first 3 months is the timeline of which you don't want to give up. After 3 months, sure, throw them in a drip campaign, try to touch them once a month.
So that again, that's for funnel management. So we're clear, right? That's for funnel management of prospects, right? Yet to be clients. I mean, you can have your own cadences and drips for clients.
This is the section 1 of the 3 sections that we talked, right? This is the top of the funnel versus the middle, which is someone you've spoken to. And again, and like you said earlier, everybody has their own bottom of the funnel. Right. Some agents will say, if I made a contact, that's it. I'm good to go. I'm going to close it no matter what, right? For me, I think you've got at every funnel you've got that little bit of a spout. That's your listing or your offer to collecting the commission check. So I don't count that as part of the funnel. Right. but the 3 sections are the sections that you've got your 3 months, section 1, then you've got your as long as it takes to get them to the third part of the funnel.
A different point, still relevant, but a different point, right? Let's talk about content, right? Because it's an interesting point for me. I mean, I see people just go on and on and on and on and on. When it comes to emails, on and on and on. When it comes to text messages, introducing themselves, their credentials, their track record, their history, their website. Quite frankly, by the 40th character on the SMS, I'm kind of like gone. I mean, is that kind of like your same philosophy for you?
I would say after the 150, maybe I have a little bit more patience than you, because you've got to, you're a lot quicker to the point. But for me, I've seen 130 to 145 is the number for text message 1.
So 145 characters, which means it's probably like a sentence and a half.
You're talking 2 sentence maximum with. And again, you're not talking about yourself at all.
Right.
I hate those emails where I get I saw a signature once of an agent who had put in, 20 different credentials of their different,
lifelong experiences. Right.
It's, okay. But now that's what I'm fixated on. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at the content that you're trying to provide me and really build that reason of why I should email you back. Right? And that's what an email is. Yes, it's an introduction, but you're hoping to get some kind of response of, sure, let's talk later next week. Or, yeah, I'm interested, right? That's as far as email. Text message, you want to, and like you said earlier, that's where I think everything is trending to. The communication is trending to text messages. One, because, even myself, I have to create a new email address every year, every 2 years, because it's just nonstop spam, right? Even if when you try to avoid it in your spam, it's just, you can't get away from it. So email, I think, is going to be long gone. I've seen some cool things with email, such as putting your own videos that separates you from everybody else. But the text messages is definitely where.
Actually, it's a good point, because I think it's worth recommending. I think it's important, especially in the business of real estate, right? There are a lot of email and SMS video rich.
Bum is actually
is it a
Bum, right? It's one that came to me I think like almost a week ago or something.
So we've yet to test it internally, but I think that a picture says 1,000 words, right? So I think the conversions are greater, and we've seen it in like different segments, not necessarily with Bum, but that's something that's worthy.
Another one, WhatsApp. Look, everybody has their WhatsApp attached to their phone number, right? Video chat with someone. Schedule a time to get on the phones for a 2-minute video chat introduction. Right? At least let them see your face. At least let them put a face to your voice, and maybe they don't realize your name, but they've seen your face in a newspaper or the terrible, benches that you mentioned, right?
Are terrible.
Bus
stops.
If they've seen your face before and you show it to them again, they'll remember it.
Social media.
What about it?
Marketing cadences. What are your thoughts about Facebook, social media?
What I love about Facebook is a lot of leads come through Facebook. A lot of leads are funneled through social media, and if not directly, at some point social media has touched that lead. And if you don't have a Facebook account, what are you doing?
So to me, where I was going with this is a lot of agents generate leads for Facebook. Right? It's a great platform. You can create get a lot of leads from Facebook. You can actually get a lot of leads from LinkedIn. If you're working on LinkedIn right, you can create very good quality leads from LinkedIn. But what we fail to realize is that we can also manage the cadence from those platforms, right? We can do the iMessage.
Facebook, I know, yes, absolutely.
Do the messages on Facebook, and also on LinkedIn.
They have chatbot automations on Facebook now.
Right. No, and which are great, right? So, again, I guess the more point of the story is that you can create the omni-channel, right, for communications everywhere you go, right? Whether it's the Facebook Messenger, whether it's the LinkedIn messaging, whether it's the text messaging, whether it's the email, whether it's the phone automation, right? And you kind of created a quantifiable amount for people to follow up from day one, knowing that real estate will take 6 months, knowing that top of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel, at a certain conversion ratio, personally I think should be less than 5%, will convert
from the top to the bottom.
From the top to the bottom, right? Realistically speaking, let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not pretend that the numbers are different. It's less than 5% if you work them. And I'm not talking about, again, family, friends, and anyone that make you go to real estate. I'm talking about the ones that are actually your long-term business plan, right? What are your ratios in your opinion? I kind of like threw in my ratios already. What is your thought process about conversion conversion? Realistic expectations from the top to the bottom.
5% is definitely a solid number to stick to. Meaning, if yes, you could be a little over 5 into 6, 7, 8%, right? I have seen some agents who are at 10%, but that's just because, one, they've been in the business forever and everybody knows their name, and two, they're relentless. And when I mean relentless, there's no yeah, but. It's, sure, I'm going to continue to follow up with you until you tell me.
But I want to touch point on one point. No, I like the answer, but I want to say the first part is the relentless agents. We need to remember. You said first off, they've been in the business for a long time, right? Let's not forget, because that's not a fair fight, and it's important that people understand that when you've been in the business for a long time, you created a local brand, then you get word of mouth leads, right? The word of mouth leads, which is an inbound referral, fall in the category of referrals, which may be somewhere in between your funnel, right? But I just want to be fair.
We're still talking about that in a sense, the cold initial lead, right? Look, your goal is, and I like to work on this 30% conversion from stage to stage. So your goal is to be able to converse with 30 to 40% of your cold leads. And when I say converse, I don't mean yes. I'm not saying you're looking to get a yes. I want to move forward. I'm saying you're able to have some kind of communication, some kind of conversation where they're giving the yes or the no. Okay, that's the 30%. Out of that 30%, you want 30% of yes, right? A third. That's where I think that 5% conversion comes from. If you got 100 leads, 30 to 40 of them are going to say hi back. Another 30 or 40 of those, let's call it 35. So you've got another 10 are going to say yes, I'm interested. And out of those 10, you should be able to convert 3 to 5 of those, right? That's the 3 to 6 or 7%.
Give me an easy number to digest. Give me an easy number. So if I have 100 leads that I've curated from all the sources, short of my friends, family, and anyone that got me into real estate, right? What should be from 100? Where should I be at the bottom of the funnel, in your opinion?
I would say 3 to 7 is where you want to be at the bottom of the funnel.
You're generous. I think 3 would probably be a good number. I think 3 would be a good number, and I think that you should base your financial plan, your investment in CRM, your investment in cadence, your investment in your business, and your tolerance for success based on that ratio.
3%.
If you cannot acquire, curate, and harvest 100 leads from every other source outside of your family, friends, and all those who got you into real estate, from 100 to 3, and if the number doesn't make sense, then you are in the wrong business. That's my personal opinion. Happy to get an input, happy to get different numbers, happy to get different comments, but here's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that I think that we need to be able to tolerate that conversion ratio, because in truth, that's what's been tested.
So tolerate versus what should be expected, I think, are a little different.
No, I mean, okay, let me be clear about it, right? If I have $1,000 in the bank and I'm getting into the space of real estate, now I need to sell, right? And I need to pay $1,000 rent in a week and I have no other means, I probably should go to work for someone. Right. But if I have a certain budget, right? I have a certain budget now that would allow me to drive the business for 6 months, right? And I'm able to curate, let's say, 100 leads, right? I need to know that from the 100 leads, if I get 3 of them, all right, if I get 3 of them and I'm averaging $2,000 commission per 3, that's $6,000. Would $6,000 cover my bills for 6 months?
Yes.
That's kind of like the math I'm looking at. Obviously, realistically speaking, 6 would probably not be enough for anyone, and it makes sense, completely understandable, but we need to, that's the financial analysis. And that's kind of like, again, we're kind of like digressing a little bit, but I would say managing your funnel from top to bottom with the cadences, you need to be prepared for the end goal, or expect that. That's probably where you're going with
this. And I think this is where you're tying it back to the original business plan. And this is what you need to have as a business plan, right? How much am I looking to live off of, right? Take that, multiply that by the number of deals you need based on your average listing price, right? Multiply that by the number of percentage, right? And that's where you get your business plan. And I think that's where you need to stick with for a 1-year plan, right? Every single day, if you know that you want to have $8,000 in the bank and you need 200 leads to hit that $8,000, every single month for the next 6 months, you need to make sure you have 200 leads in your pipeline.
Right, so basically reverse engineering it, right? I mean, reverse engineering it from your end goal. So so based on your goal, average price point of the house. And
stick to it. Stick to it. Don't give up on it after a month or 2 months or 3 months.
So what do you mean in your perception, right? What do you mean stick to it entails?
Meaning work the 200 leads every day.
Right.
Okay. Yes, you might have to cycle.
Does
a
it
couple
mean that
in
if
and
I
out.
get 190 no's, should I keep going?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, that's what the business you got into, right? You got into the business of getting no's. Right. You got into the business of but.
It's a funny comment. You got into the business of getting no's. You know what? Because if you're truly in that business, you are going to be in the top 10%, in my opinion. If you understand that you're in the business of converting no's, then you're going to be in the top 10%. If you believe that you're in the business of making huge commissions, you're probably going to walk away from the first 10 rejections.
Yes.
And that's just the reality of it. Right?
Yeah, we would agree. Absolutely.
Okay. Thought process about, I mean, so we talked about cadences, we talk about expectations, we talk about reverse engineering your game plan, the goal, the budget, right? We talk about some tools. Let's summarize the tools. We talked about Google Voice for voice management. We talk about CRM, which, there are plenty of free CRMs out there, and obviously a lot of franchises like Keller Williams and others really provide good CRMs of their own. We talked about
email templates and having some kind of email automation.
Right. We talked about and we talked about obviously the SMS automation. So overall, we talked about all of that. I mean, obviously, there's tremendous of good lead sources out there, right? I mean, in your opinion, do you think that online leads market has its strength versus going to the traditional? I mean, obviously, I have my opinion. I'll share it in a minute, but I want to hear your perspective. What do you think about the online leads market?
I think it has to be a different mindset for someone who's going to work the online lead market, right? Someone who is comfortable with referrals and someone who's comfortable with like some kind of warm touch prior to them reaching out is very different than the online lead market, where you're having to build that trust from day one because you're at a zero to a 10.
And you're competing against multiple agents.
You're competing probably against at least 6 or 7 different agents, right? I mean, regardless of even if that source that you're receiving the lead from is exclusive, that doesn't mean that homeowner hasn't gone to 2 or 3 other sources, filled out their information, and now being contacted through different various sources, right? So you have to have, like, this is relentless is the word. Aggression is the word I would use lightly. When I say aggressive, I mean you want to be aggressive on the number of touch points, but not aggressive on the way that you're approaching it. And I think that that's very different, because a lot of warm leads, you could be a little bit more aggressive because you know that they want to sell or buy. So you could come at them as, are you looking to sell or buy, and how can I help you sell or buy today? Versus, let me sit with you and let me be a mentor and let me build this trust and let me teach you and train you and get you to learn and understand the industry so that you're comfortable because you know the facts and you're not just going based on what I'm telling you. I'm here as your advisor, I'm here as your mentor, but work with me and let's hold hands and walk together on this journey of helping you buy or sell a property.
Right. Here's my perspective. First off, let's kick out something out of the equation. The old-fashioned advertising of radio, TV, and benches is probably not going to be as successful. It will be extremely expensive per lead, and will not really drive that much better conversion, because the truth of the matter is, like we talked about the benches and the bus stops, right? Most people are on their phone, so it's kind of like a background, that nobody pays attention to. If I ask you, while you're driving, what was the last thing you saw while driving, you wouldn't remember a lot of it. Unfortunately, right? So the same thing goes for radio and obviously TV. Radio was digitized as well, so people really don't listen to good traditional radio, and if they do, they really don't listen to the commercials. Kind of like the DVR effect. That
just fast forward.
Only football is kind of like commercial proof, if you will. And seriously, only football is commercial proof, content. Not even news, but which means that people don't fast forward the DVR, they want to watch football live. The second thing is, so put that out of the equation, I think that for online leads, I think that people that understood, going back to what we said before, people that understand the concept that they're in the business of overcoming no, and I don't mean K-N-O-W, I mean no, overcoming no, and take tremendous amount of opportunities and convert those no's to yeses or convert to no's to maybe later, right? And don't get discouraged in the process and have a complete cadence process and technology to manage that. Right. These are the guys who should get into online leads, because there's a big difference between the referrals, friends, families, and anyone else that got you into the business, right? And the difference is that these guys know your name. These guys here in online leads do not know your name, and you have to spend the time on building your name and your brand. So inherently, if you will, with a referral, a word of mouth, warm referral, all of these preconceived notions of the easy leads, the only easier part in them is that your name, local brand, is somewhat solidified, was somewhat introduced to the prospect. And that's a bridge that you have to overcome with online leads. And I think that if you don't have the cadence process, if you don't have the CRM, if you don't have the ability to push yourself and provide that value and have these tools in your toolbox to succeed with these guys who don't know your name even, then you would probably fail miserably, and you will be miserable because you fail miserably, right? That's kind of like my approach, and I think you can very easily get to the point that you do that if you put your business if you got the tools and in your personal understanding of where you need to be in order to manage online leads. That's my take on that.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Sounds good. I think we're kind of like out of time, so we're going to cut it short now. We'll have tremendous, many more other talks, but thanks for coming, Dan.
I appreciate it, really. Thank you.